Hello, this is another episode of Natives Podcast. Here with a couple good friends of mine, with Bob Thornton and Harold Jenkins, and we're going to get his story of Hobe Sound and how he's growing up and changed and worked and made the best of Hobe Sound. And I just can't wait to hear it because I lived it with him, and I hope he doesn't say anything about me because I am more than a little worried about this.
He knows where all the bodies are buried, does he?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm a little worried.
I was usually helping bury the bodies.
But I'll throw it to Bob and see what...
All right. Well,
Bob.
Harold, I've known Harold for a long time. I think I knew him for 9 years, and we never spoke. We went to a lot of meetings together, and I didn't even think he knew my name. And then one day I was standing in the back of the room, which I like to do, and somebody walked up next to me and was standing there and said, "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" And I looked over and it was Harold, and I was like, holy shit, he knows my name. But the finish to that story is after 14 years, I was being sworn in as the president of the Hobe Sound Chamber. We were right here on the stage at Harrying the Natives, and Harold, being the county commissioner, would do all of the swearing in and introduce everyone. And he said, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our new president, have him say a few words. Let's hear it for Bob O'Donnell. No, he said, let's hear it for Bob. And then he stops and he looks at Laney, the CEO of the chamber, and he goes, who the hell's Bob Thorson? And the whole place bursts out laughing. And she says, no, it's Bob Thornton. And he goes, who the hell is Bob Thornton? And she points to me, and Harold looks at me and goes, Bob O'Donnell is Bob Thornton. It was one of the best moments, and it broke the ice for me. I stood up in front of the mic and I said, Harold and I have only known each other for 14 years. He never knew my last name.
That's amazing what you take for granted, or take for,
So, Harold, if you would be willing to start at the beginning about, where you were born and your family. Tell us about your family life, siblings, and school.
Well, I mean, my family started farming in Jupiter in the 30s.
Wow.
Actually down further south in the 20s, and then in the 30s they officially had a lot of Jupiter farms. Was my grandfather's squash farm, which they had to close in the beginning of World War II because everybody went to war and there was nobody to run the, to labor the farm. So I actually started out life in Jupiter until I was 6, and then we moved to Hobe Sound. My dad and Mr. Rude started together, actually working for another landscape company. It was called Wilson Palm Gardens down in West Palm as tree crane operators. Yeah. And they were good friends. They grew up, the Jenkins farm was on the south side of Indiantown Road. The Rude farm was on the north side of Indiantown Road. So they grew up together. They were very good friends, literally until the day my dad died. And then in 1947, Mr. Rude and his mom, the Rude name was Mrs., because nobody had any money. She had some money. So they started to, my dad was obviously his first employee. And they started and worked together. And were extremely good friends, and, the same as Harry and I, maybe, we all grew up together and the same thing. And then it gets kind of weird because in 1958, they didn't really have any competition. So you needed some competition. So today they'd be in federal penitentiary for...
Now it gets good.
Yeah. So, they started, our dad started Jenkins Landscape, and the idea was that they would do more northern stuff and the Rude would do further, but they would compete against each other, so take it.
Allegedly.
Back when I was a kid, we'd pull up on a job, I'm 10 years old on Jupiter Island, and we'd pull up to a job, and on the left side was all the red trucks. On the right side was all the green trucks, because our trucks were green back then and Rudes were red. And then all of the laborers were mixed uniforms. And to this day, I'm going, how did you ever bill that job? I mean, they just literally worked together. If they needed a loader, we'd send them a loader. If we needed a loader, they'd send us a loader. It was just They had such a great working environment. And Scott Fay, which now owns Rude, famously says, every time he introduced me, he says, Harold's one of my best friends and fiercest competitors, and that's kind of the way it should be, right?
Yeah, but it sounds almost like the old farmers.
Yeah.
They were all in competition, but they were all also in community together.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, with the way the legal system works today with insurance and stuff like that, you really can't do that. I can't send them a piece of equipment and have one of their operators operate it, or they can't really send me an employee and be under my workman. So it's a much more
complicated,
unfortunately
controlled.
Complicated. Yeah. So, but anyway.
And your dad and Buster were such good friends. They would go and play music together.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't they have a band together?
Buster was the story, and again, this is way before my time. And by the way, any of these stories that I'm going to tell you, if you talk to my brother or any of my cousins or what, they won't agree with you, because nobody in my family can agree on history, because I guess nothing exciting enough happened that actually somebody wrote it down or documented it, right? So everybody disagrees and argues about everything that happened in the old days. So, but I forgot where I was going with that. So the deal is that my dad and Jim Money, which used to sell Massey Ferguson tractors, and my Aunt Jenny played the piano. My dad played the fiddle. Al Staffa, which owned County Line Pizza, which was right on the corner of County Line Road, played the accordion. And they, on the weekends, they'd go out and just jam. And in the old days, Buster was there because Buster was Root. I never call him Buster. I call him Mr. Root, right? But he's built like a floor jack, right? I mean, literally. And so he was their roadie, I guess you call it. So, and they were just, they all had a great time, and anyway. So, but he was a wonderful man. He was one of my most important mentors. My dad died in 1986. I was 26 years old. I was forced into taking over a company that had almost 200 employees.
Wow.
And had a negative value of about $700,000. Because I don't know if anybody remembers 1986, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
All this other nonsense we've been through lately with what they call recessions was nothing compared to what we were going through in the late and mid 80s. So anyway, my dad passed away, and the next morning I'm sitting at my desk and phone rings and they say it's Mr. Rood, and I get on the phone and he goes, no, Nate, no. He showed up in my office, sat down at my desk, and said, "You need help?" And I said, "Probably." And he said, "I'll run your company if you want me to." Right? And he would have run his own company in the ground. That's how, he was just that kind of guy. And I don't know if you believe in divine intervention, but
I think we're all here because of divine intervention.
Right. That man, I could be, and there was, when I was struggling, and trying to make decisions on buying a dump truck or, even just the mundane stuff that back then, I'd be sitting there or having to fire somebody. That was the worst thing I could do because I'm not that kind of guy. I'd be sitting at my desk and I'd be all kind of bummed out, and he'd literally walk in my office. And I don't know how he sensed that I was struggling with something. And he'd plop down, and usually he was looking for a check for the Kiwanis or, something. Yeah. There was a reason why he was there.
But it was always at the perfect time.
It was always at the perfect timing. And I go, he says, "What's bothering you?" And I said, "Well, I got this employee, and he's just destroying everybody's morale, and so he talked me through it every time, or the finance, I got to buy a new dump truck. I'm going to have to finance it. It's going to be this much a month, and I'm really just kind of, and he talked me through it. He was just an amazing guy, and I was honored to be his pallbearer at his funeral, and he was. I just, people that didn't know him, I'll tell you a story. This guy had. It's going to be about Mr. Rude. We're going to have a podcast about Mr. Rude. Anyway, which he deserves it. He
does. I love it.
Scott Fay, again, Rude, is pushing him around at the end of his life, maybe a year before he passed, at the trade show up in Orlando at the whatever. And, so we're walking through, or I pass him. And Scott's pushing him in the chair, and Tom Balling, his partner's standing next to him, and so he kind of goes. Scott goes, "Your turn," right? So because they had things they needed to do, and Roy just wanted to talk to everybody, right? And so I'm pushing him, and we're stopping at every booth because his memory was unbelievable. He remembered everything there was to remember, right? And so there was this guy happened to be walking down the aisle, and Mr. Rude goes, "Hey, so and so, how you doing? How's your business doing?" I think he was some guy on the West Coast, and I didn't know him. And and how's your wife Alma and your kids right? And so he's carrying on a conversation with him, like he talked to him a couple of months ago. Yeah. Right. And so they finished their conversation. So I start pushing him away, and the guy took his hand and whispered into my ear. He says, "I haven't seen him for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how old was he then?
He was in his 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I mean, he was just that kind of guy. He was just a really amazing guy. He helped me do what I did, and if it wasn't for him and my wife, I would be living in a trailer in Okeechobee right now, probably.
But the big takeaway from that is that you were willing to ask for help and take help. Where most people drown because they're too proud to say that they're in trouble, and by the time they wave that they need help, it's too late.
Yeah, no doubt.
So good for you.
Yep. I'll tell you another one that was Corky Hudson.
Oh.
Seacoast Bank, or First National Bank of Stewart. He was a good friend of my dad's, and back when we were in trouble in the 80s and my dad passed away, I thought he was the biggest jerk in the world because he called me, and it was like being called into the principal's office. And he said, "Harold, your books are not looking good, and you got 6 months to show me some black ink, or we're going to have a serious conversation," right? Pissed me off, right? I'm Irish.
I was going to say, you don't have much of a temper either.
Oh, no, I got a fuse about that long.
That's one of the reasons we get along.
Totally pissed me off that, and I took it that he didn't have any faith in me, and that, because a lot of people there were people on Jupiter Island taking bets about how long it would take me to run the business in the ground, right? And so years later, I took all of my business from First National Bank, right? And I went to Harbor Federal down in Jupiter. Nowak. Remember Nowak? Yeah, he was anyway. So I went down there for about, 2.5, 3 years. And things were we had the freeze of '89. That saved our, excuse my French, asses, right? Because everything around here, this little frost that we just had ain't nothing compared to what we had in '89. Nothing. I mean, there wasn't anything alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Said the landscaper.
Exactly. So we were hauling stuff from Louisiana.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, just ligustrum, semi-loads of ligustrum, replacing ficus heads with the ligustrums anyway. And we were really kicking some butt, right? And doing very well. And so I go to a chamber event at the Monterey Triangle at the SunTrust building there. The third floor wasn't done, but they had it was a Council of Chambers meeting, and they had all these big tables laid out, and I'm sitting there minding my own business, and who plops down next to me? It's Corky Hudson. And I look over and I'm thinking, you son of a... Right? And then all of a sudden, light bulb went off. If he didn't do what he did, I would not have done what I did, because I literally cut the business in half, sold off surplus equipment. I slimmed it down, and we were running as efficient as we possibly could to make some black ink, right? And I'm telling you today, if he did not do that, and it went, right, and I stood up and gave him a hug. I'm serious. I said, I just realized what you did for me. That's why I will never leave Seacoast.
That's a beautiful story.
It is.
And it's amazing. You know, I try to instruct my granddaughter and the kids that I work with that not everyone that's nice to you is your friend, and not everyone that's tough to you is your enemy.
Exactly.
That's a great story.
Yeah. He was an amazing guy too. So but so anyway.
So you cut everything in half with the business.
We cut everything more than in half. We had 100 acres of nursery. We had 40 guys working in the nursery. It never made a dime. We had a big garden center. That vacant property south of our office used to be a garden center. And actually, it went around the back of the building. It was this huge thing. It probably had 10 employees. Never made a dime. You know, so I really started breaking the income down to profit centers in the company because we did so much. We did masonry. We did carpentry. We did everything. My dad used to say, I do everything outside the front door. Right? And I said, well, for one, let's focus on what we're good at. And two, let's focus on something we can make some money at. Right? The rest of it doesn't mean nothing. And so that's what we did. And God loved my wife that stood with me, and because we went through some tough times. And we made it work. So but
that's a big key, you know. I have an opportunity to teach leadership to the police athletic league kids on Wednesday nights, and one of the coaches, AJ, he almost every week he says to the kids, you know, work on what you're good at. Yeah. The problem with the schools is they want to say, oh, well, Harry's really good at English, but he's bad at math, so let's force him to do math.
Right.
Where he could become one of the best literary guys in the world if he concentrated on what he's good at. So you were right. You can't be all things to all people.
No.
And once you cut it all, you trim back the branches, everything started to grow. Yeah.
My dad was an interesting guy. He was not motivated by money. You know, it wasn't how much money he had in the bank or how much. It was all about the art, and it was all about the science of growing. You know, he was a farmer. You know, it was about taking a plant. You know, I remember in the garden center, he was doing cross-pollination of orchids and all this crazy stuff all the time, and that was his passion. And the whole business, I hate to call him, he wasn't a very good businessman, but really at the end of the day, he wasn't. It was about doing the art of landscape. And to do the complete art of landscape, this is what you needed to do in his mind. So anyway, I have a little bit different way of doing things than he did, but he was an amazing guy, and he never raised his voice, and and he had his glasses, and all he had to do was do this.
That was it.
To me or anybody else.
Yep.
You better tighten up.
Everybody. Everybody.
Yeah. But
it's always those quiet ones.
He was a good guy. My mom, the whole balance that we were talking about with the other couple, my mom was polar opposite of that. 4'10", Irish. Oh, and just an absolute firecracker that would tell you exactly what she was thinking. There was absolutely no filter.
Like old dynamite.
Oh my God, she was.
You had to handle carefully.
She was cool. And I miss them both terribly. But obviously, like we all do. But anyway. But
and in those days, they would hire you a little younger than they do now.
Yeah.
I think I went to work for Jenkins at 13 years old.
Yeah.
So I worked the summertime for 13. Yeah. So
I got to tell you.
You imagine giving somebody a hedge trimmer at 13. You know what? Now, you know what? They'd sue you. You know what? You can't trust a kid doing that and everything else.
No, they don't know which end of a screwdriver you use.
You know what? Run the mower, run the, whatever it was. You just did it. And,
So I always worked in the shop after school, right? Because you couldn't really go out on a crew and join a crew in the middle of the day. So I'm always doing things mechanics, so I was always moving trucks around and all this stuff. Since I was 14 years old, I was moving a semi around the yard, right? Now, this is a true story. I was not 17 years old. And driver didn't come in one day, and and I was off school, or I don't know how that happened, but my dad goes, I need you to go to LaBelle and pick up a load of sod. I'm going, huh? Right? And so, nobody taught me how to do anything. I never got taught how to drive a semi. I figured it out in the yard, right? Grinding gears and everything else. And, and his whole thing was, just don't wreck the truck, right? Just go down there, they'll load you, strap it down, and bring it back. And then, who would do that with a 16-year-old kid these days? There are none of my kids I'd have done it with. He had nerves of steel, but and I was that first trip, man. I was petrified the whole way. I just, but that's the way he was, and that's the way he grew up. It's survival of the fittest. If you can't do it, you die. Right?
That's plain and simple. It keeps the herd thin.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
We're going to only have the bright ones who are going to make it through.
Yeah. Anyway. But so there was, for a while there, I was, I'd leave 4 o'clock in the morning and go get a load of sod down in LaBelle. And not LaBelle, in South Bay. I don't know why I said LaBelle. South Bay. And, going through Pahokee, that bumpy ass road down there. Yeah, by the airport. And I'd go down there at 4 o'clock in the morning. They'd load me at 5. I'd be back in the yard at 6:30. Then I'd get in my car and go to school.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and, it's not like it was every day, but, once a couple times a month, I would do stuff like that. And that's just the way it was. And then come back and tear engines down. Because back then, you didn't buy anything new. You rebuilt what you had. And so I started learning how to rebuild Detroit. We had these Detroit diesel, those 2-stroke diesel pumps in the nursery. Nobody really cares about any of this.
I do.
That's how I really started learning is rebuilding those. And we had our mechanic, which every mechanic I've ever had is. Anyway, we'll tell the Shark. Does he listen to this?
No, he doesn't listen to him. He doesn't.
Anyway,
no, he doesn't.
We're tough to deal with, and but he was a good teacher. Anyway, so one of our good friends.
All right, we want to hear it.
So his name is Jim Shar. He's moved to Ocala. He's an older guy, and he was a bull rider. It's so beat up he could barely move. But he's a hell of a mechanic. And the Groves. That's when the Groves were shutting down, and so I needed a mechanic. So I offered a job. He took it, which I didn't think he would. And then, so he took no prisoners. Right? I mean. And screaming and yelling. If somebody tore something up, oh my God, and then
you are the stupidest blank I've ever seen. You know what?
And there was one day, and I'm sitting in we call our war room where we do our dispatch. It's actually their dispatch room, and there's a little window in the door, right? And I could see him all the way, and I was sitting in the chair, and we were doing our dispatch thing, and I'm looking, and I see him, and he's throwing wrenches at somebody that was running across his shop, right? And finally I went out there and I said, Jim, this is not working. You can't do that. Yeah, and there was another story that we will not talk about that probably, that was, but he was a cool guy, and he's still a dear friend of ours. So.
Yeah, oh man, he's just one of our best friends, but he was strong enough that, he'd take a 350 Ford 351, and he'd just take the whole motor and lift it up.
Uh-huh.
He'd lift it up. I mean, he'd work cows, and I'll tell you what, that calf might be 300 pounds. He'd throw it to the ground like it was nothing. Like everybody else is trying to, he would throw it to the ground and everything else, and don't mess with him.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that horse, it was kind of like, Blazing Saddles. He would hit it one time, and I mean, that horse, next time he got on its back, it might have bucked him off once, but he'd go right back, and he would, and I mean.
So when you crossed the line, you had to be worried.
Yep, you were worried.
Yeah.
And he would get in fights. If you needed somebody, call him up.
Yeah.
You're in a bar fight, call him up, because he's coming in, and the first guy he's hit, you know what? His fist is going through him.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll tell you what, he's going to take him out. And very few will get a shot on him, but I'll tell you what, both his hands will be, and they were huge, but they would be just.
He would be so in jail and sued.
Oh, he couldn't.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it.
He couldn't. That's why he probably had to move out in those sticks, no cow. Yeah.
Way away from civilization.
And still driving truck, he's still hauling hay to this day. And the guy he hauls it for, he pulls up his pickup truck beside the truck and gets out of it, and then crawls up in the truck and then drives out, and makes a couple runs, and and two, 3 times a week, and he's 80.
Yeah. He's up there. Yeah. But the one thing I do want to talk about is growing up in Hobe Sound.
Yeah.
And I got to brag it up. I don't care where you came from. I don't. Where's my camera? I don't care where you came from. This was the best place in the world to grow up, right here. Mm-hmm. Right here. We had nothing going on. Nothing. There was probably, what would you guess, 20, 25 houses in all of Zeus Park.
Yep. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was nothing on Gomez. I remember them digging the canals on the north end of Gomez back when I was on a bicycle. Yep. Right? I remember Hope Hills. You remember or Hope Heights, when they had all the flooding.
Yep.
Right? When they developed that, it flooded.
Yeah.
Before there was a house even built there, we'd ride our bikes up there because and the road would be 3 feet deep.
It would be.
Right? It was just... and everybody, we had that big flood a few years back, and everybody's I'm going, I've seen it just like this before. Before these houses that are 3 feet, 4 feet underwater.
Yep.
Yeah.
50 years ago it did.
Same thing. So.
And now they're shocked. This never happened before.
Yeah. But we had so much fun growing up here because we all knew each other. And there was and I don't care whether you're black, white, pink, whatever, it didn't matter. And I might just be ignorant because of who I was, but I don't remember any racism at all. We all got along. And we had our ballpark in the circle of Zeus Park before all the other ballparks were built. That's where our baseball diamond was. And we'd play there. So the black guys would come over there, and they'd play. It'd be blacks against the whites just because it was the neighborhood against the neighborhood. Right? And then we'd ride our bikes across because they used to have a baseball diamond in the back corner of Banner Lake.
Where Pine School is.
Yeah, where the Pine School is. And we'd play baseball over there, football. And usually when we played football, somebody went to the hospital. But it was all, we just had.
And they had teams that come up there. They had, I don't know what you would call it, like AAA teams or whatever. You know what? They had good baseball up there.
Yeah.
We screwed around over here.
Yeah.
They were professional over here.
Yeah.
There was a big difference.
Yeah.
It was like, And we had to get extra people for, like my first year, we had a couple from Tequesta come so we could make a team.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough kids to make a team, you know, for 7 to 10.
Yeah.
Don't have enough
I do
kids.
remember when Jimmy Sims pissed him off, though. You remember that?
Oh.
But we all got along, and I grew up. We had I don't mean the word housekeeper is not the right word for what Maddie was. Maddie was she was our housekeeper, but she basically raised me, and and I was part of her family, and her family was part of my family. So when my parents would go away, I was the little black kid in the back of the car. I mean, a white kid in the back of the car going through. It's just.
Yep,
it was just the
different
way.
times.
And to this day, I call her my mom, and all of my sisters, and Randy. Anyway, they're my siblings. That's just when you grow up with somebody for over 20 years, that's the way it is, right? So, but this was a great place to grow up, and you couldn't get away with anything. If you did something, you'd hear about it riding your bike all the way home. I mean, people would come out their front door and go, "You bunch of idiots, why did you do that?" And it's like, oh, God, my parents know what's going on, right? Oh, God, it was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
But,
everybody... It does take a neighborhood or a village to raise kids properly,
Yeah.
Yep,
absolutely.
where now everybody's going to video you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
no doubt.
what you're doing and what you're saying,
Yeah.
and that's against my rights, and then the media is going to blow it up and try to separate all of us, and like the magicians, right? Pay no attention to this hand, watch this hand while I'm doing this. I'm reaching in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's a different day and time.
Yeah. No doubt.
And as the business grew, when you took over 26, were you married?
Yeah.
Did you have children already?
Yep.
Okay. Again, different times.
Yep. I had, we got married, I was 21, she was 18 in 1981. So we had in 86 when Dad passed, we had all three of them. I mean, Aaron was a baby then, right? Or no, Aaron might not have been born. I can't do math. Anyway, so, yeah, we had a full, I lived on Sandcastle, and then, yeah, it was an interesting time of having that much responsibility thrown at you. I really had a kind of a breakdown there for a week or so, where I just was shaking all the time, and my vice president at the time, we had a seminar in Jacksonville we were supposed to be at. So he literally drugged me out of the house because I was flipping out, right? And we went up there and partied for 3 days, and I came back and I was fine. Kind of pushed my reset button. Yeah, we hit every strip club between Hobe Sound and Jacksonville.
You just needed to let off some steam.
Sometimes that's what it takes, just kind of, but yeah. So anyway.
And what about one of the things that I know you're extremely passionate about, besides Hobe Sound and the community, is automobiles. How did you get into automobiles, and what was your first car?
My first car was a 71 Pinto. It came out of the fleet, and it was one of the salesman cars. And I remember you could see the ground on the passenger floor because it was all rotted out. And I basically had to rebuild that car. And then, because, anyway, so my dad I remember I needed a battery one time. I didn't have enough money to buy a battery, and he would not, right?
He wouldn't give you money for a battery.
So I'm running around for 3 weeks getting jumped off with jumper cables before I could save up enough money for a battery, because he's just teaching me a lesson, right? And I probably had pissed him off that created that. To be honest
good chance.
Yeah, there's a good chance there was a real good reason why he actually did that. But yeah, I just, I've always liked going fast, and I actually started out my racing career racing sailboats. They're called windmills. And my cousin Ricky and I went down Biscayne Bay and over to Tampa Bay, and we raced all over the place. Matter of fact, the third year we were racing, we took first place in Florida and got the chance to go to nationals, which was up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We had a farm in Virginia at the time that we spent summers up there. And so we drugged that boat all the way to Virginia. And then Ricky had flown up, a couple of days before, a week before the competition. And we're out riding horses. He's on my sister's horse. I'm on my horse. And we're going down the driveway. It's real steep. And I just happened to be leaning over, and something spooked that horse. And he reared back and hit me in the side of the head with a bridle, and it caught me in the corner of the eye. and I had blood literally going down, right? And I remember my mom just flipped out. She thought I broke my eye out.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah, I got 14 stitches in my eye. So that boat came all the way home without touching the water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was...
And then how did you get into car racing? It was just a natural...
So it was just a natural progression. I started go-karts, started, the street cars that I always had, I always hopped them up, and we'd go out to Moroso and race, and which is the Palm Beach International or whatever, and now it's nothing, and hopefully somebody will buy it and bring it back. But, me and all my friends would go out there. I was always the wrench, because a lot of them, again, didn't know which end of a screwdriver to use. So, and we raced down double roads all the time too, which, these days if you did that.
That's frowned upon.
You could have gone to jail for, but we did a lot of fun. And, so then I met the McMillions in the early 90s, right? Yeah, early 90s. And then we started racing with Steve and Jeff. And then we bought another car, and then we bought another car, and then we had 4 cars by the time we were done. And, and then we graduated from altered front engine dragsters to rear engine dragsters in 97. And and then, we were progressively going faster and faster and faster, running in the 7s, almost 200 miles an hour. And then it got to the point where we all realized once one of our dear friends almost died that we're going too fast. And David Chambers wrecked bad. I mean, bad. And it looked like by the time we got down to the wreck, it looked like an airplane crash.
Wow.
The rear end was over there, the motor was over there, transmission's over there, and scared the hell out of me. It's the last time I went down that track, I sold the car. So I then built a car a few years ago that didn't have enough time to race and ended up selling it. But me and Jeff put about 20 passes on the car the whole time we had it. That was the biggest waste of money ever. And my wife will my wife will remind me of that any time. All the projects in my garage, she'll tell you exactly how stupid I am. But and then I started collecting Mustangs, and so I just sold a few of the old ones and I bought a new one because I'm tired of working on stuff. So I'm kind of in the next phase of my life of doing road rallies and stuff in a car that that doesn't try to kill me, which did a road.
It is a good thing.
Did a road rally last year. I have a car that I built or had built a number of different things, and it's got over 800 horsepower, and I'm chasing a Ferrari and a Porsche up the mountain. They were part of our group. There's 12 cars in our group, and it was in November with leaves on the ground, and they just burped this car, and it's got 18-inch tires on the back of it, and so it tried to kill me and my nephew a couple of times, and I said, you know what, I think I'm getting too old for this too. So it's as you get older, you get wiser, I guess. I don't know.
Or you don't get older.
Or you don't get older. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So are you comfortable if we talk about things that have tried to kill you? Anything recently tried to kill you?
Yes. Well. I have, that whole retirement thing.
Yes.
Yeah. It is, and anybody listening that's even thinking about retiring, you better think about it twice, because I've been struggling with it hard. And so I started before my commission term was up, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. I thought I was going to die. Which created a bunch of depression and anxiety.
Understandably.
And, and I have a couple of other challenges we won't get into of my family.
Does anyone not have challenges in their family?
Yeah. But and then so I go through the whole chemo thing, which that was tough. Anybody, I'm telling you, our buddy Eric, which did a podcast here, went through it. I just can't. I did it for 4 months. He did it for what, almost 4 years.
Yes.
Right. It almost killed me in 4 months, and then I did 2 months of immunotherapy that was even worse. And I just can't imagine just bringing tears to my eyes just thinking about it. But I was lucky enough to have surgery. They took the top lobe of my lung off, and then obviously it had metastasized into one lymph node, which caused me to have to do the chemo and the other. So since then I've been clear. I've got another scan. Actually, they did CT scans of my chest on the next story. So I should
Chapter
be good to
2.
go. So yeah. So, and then I had I had a cyst on my adrenal gland they had to remove, and, after that, not too long after that, and then I had February last year, I had this shoulder, because I couldn't even move. I had this shoulder replaced. I already had this one done. And then the last thing was 11 weeks ago, Thursday, I was in Virginia visiting my son, which was going to fly us to Amsterdam because he works for United and had bid for the flight. And we were doing a river cruise with some dear friends of ours. And I began to have chest pains. And unfortunately, I just got checked out by my cardiologist a week before, or 2 weeks before, and given a good bill of health. So I had a false sense of security that it was Harry's hamburger that created
gas
this,
coming up.
Yeah, all this pain. And so we were up there for 2 days. And then finally, the last day, my wife and my grandson especially was insisted that I go to the doctors or go to the hospital. So they took me to the emergency room because our flight wasn't until 6 o'clock that afternoon. And this is 8 o'clock in the morning. So they took me to the emergency room, and I tell the guy I'm having chest pains. And so they bring me back and hook me up the EKG machine, and the cardiologist guy comes in, or the whoever doctor comes in, and he goes, "Well, your EKG is fine." And before that, the pain was coming and going, and heart attacks don't normally come and go, right?
It's usually a steady thing.
Yeah. So I had one in 2003 too. So this is I'm a veteran. Yeah. So
things you don't want to be a pro
at. I deserved the one in 2003 because I was the biggest asshole on the planet. I was working 14 hours a day. I was screaming at everybody. I was just wide open, right? And that pushed my reset button back then. But anyway, they hooked me up, and the thing's still not going away. So he puts a nitro tab on my tongue, and all of a sudden the pain goes. He goes, "You're having a cardiac event." So they do the enzyme test to verify, which is, by the way, he said 1940s technology. So the modern technology of all the stress tests and everything else didn't pick any of this stuff up. The 1940s technology of a blood test
was able to
identified that I was at that point I was in a serious, because they kept doing it and the numbers kept going up. So they did. So the funny part of this is, he goes, "Well, you need to go to another hospital. They transport me to do angioplasty, to do a stent, right?" And he goes, "Right." So I've had a stent before. It's not a big deal. I've actually got a shirt that says "Stents are for wimps." Yeah, open heart surgery is for and I should have wore that.
Yeah.
So my daughter-in-law bought that for me, and and this is a funny story. So now it's time for Susan to figure out whether she's going to Amsterdam or not, right? So it's, after lunch or whatever, and I said, "Just go. I'm getting a stent. I'll catch up," because we were spending 3 days. I'll catch up with you. It's not a big deal.
Get my heart worked on. Right? No big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah,
so she goes. She goes. So
it's probably because of that other story. She was still holding a grudge to the car.
So anyway, so I'm trying to get to the important part of this story, but it takes a while.
Take your time. I like it.
So they send me to another hospital to have the angioplasty. She goes, right? So Robbie flies her across the pond and the whole deal, and so they doing the angioplasty, and so I don't know if I'm sure people that's listening to this have had a stent, and they don't knock you out. They just put you in twilight, and you're looking at the camera, and you can feel them fussing with your arm and whatever else. And I hear the guy go, "Oh shit!" Right?
Things you don't want your surgeon to say.
That was it. They knocked me out at that point. I'm going, "Oh my God!" Right?
You're waiting to meet Morgan Freeman as God.
Yeah, exactly. I'm, St. Peter, and I figured I'd been married long enough that there was just going to be this when I get
Wheelhouse.
there. Yeah, just come on.
I've been married long enough.
Yeah. After 45 years.
He did his penance.
Yeah, exactly.
No steps for you, escalator. Yeah, right up.
So they knock you out.
So that knocked me out. So I finally wake up. Here's my daughter-in-law. She's Russian. With a very Russian accent, the sweetest woman you'd ever want to meet, but do not piss her off, right? And the doctor's down there, and I go, the first thing I said, "What was the shit about?" Right? And he goes, "Well, it's your widowmaker vein," and he goes, "We can't stent that."
Wow.
And he explained why, because it's big, and anyway. And there's a real reason why people die of a widowmaker, because there's no nerves around it, and the pain was. I don't mean to get into.
No, that's okay. You know what? You might be giving a wake up call to somebody else.
So the widowmaker vein is in the middle of your heart, and where my problem was the blood supply to the very bottom part of my heart. But it wasn't complete. And the reason I didn't die is because it wasn't plugged up all at once. So when you relax, your veins open up and the pain goes away. When you get tense, and the pain is from the bottom of my heart where that vein feeds blood to. So that's the only reason why, is because it wasn't completely plugged up, which, by the way, he told me, and I don't know if this is true, I haven't done any research on it, but he said I'm part of the 5% club. So 5% of the people who would have made a heart attack actually live through it.
And I happen to know that's true because a very good friend of mine had a heart attack in our showroom.
Yeah.
And he was one of the very few.
Yeah. So, and this has happened to me twice. So this is where I really wanted to go. At that point, all of that anxiety and all of that depression that I was going through went away. I cannot, and I don't mean to get corny about this, but I cannot describe, and Scott Fay and I have had this because Scott has had some serious health issues where he thought he was going to die also. When you realize that there's nothing in the world you can do to change the outcome of what's about to happen to you, right? And as long as you're right with God and you're right with your life, you have no choice but to be at peace, right? At that point, there was literally nothing I could do. And the same thing happened to me in 2003 when I had my heart attack, and Martin Memorial mixed the wrong drugs together, and I looked at the doctor and the nurse's face, and they were confused, and I could tell that they were concerned, and all of a sudden peace came over me for about 10 minutes until the other guy came in and started screaming and yanked the one IV out of me, and just had the nitro going to me.
Bedside manner.
Yeah. And anyway, which saved my life. They put me down to Gardens, and then I got a stent. But that I got to tell you, it was an experience that you're not going to experience unless you have a near-death experience or where you think you're going to die, because the way he was talking was, there's a very good chance that I'm going to die. So anyway, they moved me to another hospital because they didn't do the open heart at that particular hospital in Alexandria, Virginia. They sent me to the main campus of Fairfax Hospital, which, by the way, is one of the best cardiac hospitals in the United States. And the lady, Dr. Petra, that did my surgery was one of the top in the country. So, and she found a vein in my chest. They didn't have to cut my leg. They didn't even put my heart on bypass. So she's that good. And so she did it with my heart beating. And, but I'm pretty much, I think, so 2 really bad things have happened. The third one's going to take me out.
So the third is the charm?
I'm ready for, I'm ready for that not to be, I'd like to kind of retire now without worrying about my health, right?
So then we go through the surgery, and now you're out and you're in good spirits. Have you made any changes in your life at all?
I'm exercising a hell of a lot more than I was.
Yeah. So that was your wake-up call.
Yeah, it really was. And I am trying to eat better. I do have some sugar issues, and since I've been eating better, that's taken care of itself, which is kind of interesting. So, but yeah, and it's just, I'm not ready to go, but I was ready to go.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make any sense. We've lived, he and I have had so much fun since we've known each other. There is a very small fraction of the population of the world that had the experiences and the fun that he and I have had. I mean, we've really been blessed, and growing up in this town, and having dear friends that we have. I mean, we have a core group of friends that are amazing support, for each other. And we have a friend of ours right now that's going through some health issues that we're all very, very concerned about.
So a guy with a short fuse, who's Irish, who doesn't like politicians, became a county commissioner. And how did that happen?
Oh, that happened right downstairs. Yeah, leaning against the bar. Our previous commissioner, we'll leave her name out of the
Mix.
mix.
Yep.
Had pissed us all off. It had to do with our CRA, our community redevelopment thing, which is how Bridge Road got remodeled, and how Dixie will be redone here in a few years down to the train station. That particular person was very supportive of it until we helped her get elected, and then 3 months later, it wasn't. So
wow, a politician went back on their word.
Then it was just an absolute nightmare for us in Hobe Sound that we're trying to grow in the right way, right? And lawsuit after lawsuit, and this and that and the other, and so I'm down leaning against the bar. I'm probably on my second or third cocktail, and Harry's on one side, my wife's on the other side of me, and so we're having this discussion with a bunch of other people, and both of them simultaneously go, "We're tired of listening to you bitch about it." Bernie Auer on Jupiter Island had been trying to get me, and Nary trying to get me to run for years and years and years. He actually tried to get Harry to run even before that. And, we're tired of listening to you, either S or get off the pod, right? And I said, let's get it on. Right? And I did. I'm about as far from a politician as you can get. And if you've ever watched me behind the dais, I don't say much. But when I say something, I've done my research. I don't need to be taught. I've already got it going on, and I speak my mind. And I was one of the biggest supporters of rural lifestyle. The thing that got us the future tax benefit that we're experiencing right now, and bringing the top quality development, lowest density you could ever imagine, turning a piece of property that could eventually have 3,500 homes to having 300 homes on it, right? Mm-hmm. And having another piece of property that could have had 1,200 homes that has no homes on it, right? And then another one that was already approved for, I think, 600 that has 172 homes on it, right? And
those homes, by the way, they are not worried about recession.
No,
because they have the wherewithal, and it's not a burden on our community.
They don't use our services.
No.
And so what's fun now is now that it's over 3 years, it's almost 4 years old. Some of the biggest critics are now some of the biggest supporters. Which I did a tour of Apogee yesterday with Morris Crady, and it's just amazing what they've done out there.
Unbelievable.
And people should be very proud that Hobe Sound is growing the right way. And I am very proud that I had something to do with that. But honest with you, I don't mean to be negative, but not only with my health issues, I had made the decision that I was done, and I think I always called myself the pothole filler, right? I was the guy that you call to have your pothole filled, right? I was not the guy that was lobbying some senator in D.C. or, Doug Smith was great at that. And Sarah, she's been a commissioner for over 24 years. The connections they've made, and that they're politicians, right? I'm the doer guy. Right? If you give me a problem, I'll figure it out, and let's get with the program, and I'll support, the thing. And but trying to educate the public when the public doesn't want to be educated, that's where I just kind of lost it. It just really took it out of me. And you have people that talk a bunch of nonsense. This is why I'm not on Nextdoor or whatever, because they just talk a bunch of nonsense just to make themselves relevant to themselves, and even though the facts are there, they just right. And I just said I can't do this anymore. And so the big thing is that, do you miss it? I do miss it. I don't miss that part of it, but I miss the rest of it. I miss the connections that I made. As we get older, and older, our core group of friends, either die off or, we lose touch and it goes this. Well, the minute I became a county commissioner, it went boom, right?
You have a lot of new friends?
Oh, I had a lot of not necessarily even new friends. It's friends that I haven't connected with in 30 years that all of a sudden now, the Tom Lucidos of the world. I worked with him when I first started in the early 80s, and he, and all of that. And the relationships I built with staff, we have the best staff, county staff, on the planet. I don't care. I've seen what Palm Beach County does, and I've seen what especially St. Lucie County does. We have professionals that work for Martin County. They're nice people. They're helpful people when they're allowed to be helpful.
Very good.
And that's the part I miss. I miss, and I had, and I'll brag her up again, and it's my work wife, Colleen. She did everything. We did everything together, and that's how I ran my business. And I'm sure that you're the same way. When you're going to a job that you're physically not going to do, you're going to bring the guy that's going to do that to the job. That's what you do, right?
Right.
Well, people that's never had a job before are usually politicians. They don't understand that.
No.
Right? So if I'm going to go meet somebody, and I'll give Turtle Creek, because there was a couple of problems that we resolved down there that the previous commissioner couldn't because she didn't bring the right people for the right project. So I would bring Colleen because she's answering the phone. She's talking to the people.
She's in the trenches.
She's in the trenches, right? And if it's an engineering problem, I'd bring somebody from the engineering department. If it was a, road, all these other things, you bring the staff so they understand it, and it's not that hard, right? And, I got praised on all the success that I did. Well, that was just how you do business. And so people don't understand it's not that hard.
I think the big problem is that as our great country began to develop, they took businessmen, not politicians,
right,
and they pressed them into service to build the country for a short period of time and then relieve them of their duties.
Yeah.
Where now there's career politicians that have never had a job and don't know how to fix things. And as well as I do, and Harry knows the same thing, you have to surround yourself with people that are good at what you can't do and put them all together and let them do their job. And all you do is orchestrate it.
That's it.
And I just want to compliment Colleen because there have been several times, I'll use my business partner, Mike. He had some real big concerns about where he lives and what was going on. And I said, I'll put in a call to Harold. And Colleen got a hold of him, scheduled an appointment. You guys went. He was blown away.
Yeah.
That everything he talked about was addressed, and and she's still out there swinging. She's a rock star.
She's doing great, and she's thank God. Blake Kepper, because he had the opportunity not to. I told him he was out of his mind, and I'd probably strangle him if he didn't.
And they are friends.
Yeah, and Blake is a dear friend of mine, and she makes the job easy, Blake. Because if you didn't have her, But and Blake is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I really think. I mean, there's some. I do disagree with some things, but you know what? It's okay.
It's all
but
good.
He's doing a fantastic job. And one thing I realized, like one of the first meetings I watched, and I don't watch very many meetings because but the one thing that he brought to the table that I had to learn was the legal side of things. That I watched him because he understood the difference between a legislative thing and all of that stuff. I had to learn it. And he brought that to the table. I mean, he's learning other things, but he had a head start with that.
Right.
And I am very pleased that he is doing this thing, and so and to be honest with you, every once in a while we have lunch or it's been a while since we had lunch, but he calls me and we talk and. He gets my opinion, and whether he follows it or not, he normally does. But and that was one of my big things. And then what I try to get across to him is to be successful at this, you also have to have an important peer group, which you and Harry both were part of. My peer group. If I had a issue that I was on the fence about, I had to talk it out. I had to talk it out with other people, that have common sense. right? Which
should be called uncommon sense.
Right, exactly. So, and Blake has a damn good peer group.
Yes.
That he's doing great. So.
And he's not afraid to pick up the phone and
No,
call
he's
and
not.
say,
Yeah.
what do you know about this? What do you think about it?
Right.
Which is the sign of a good leader. And I think that's part of what we've lost in our society, that people don't think for themselves. Like you said, you had to try to educate the public, and they don't want to hear it. We have so much information, but between every story, there's your side of the story and my side of the story. Somewhere in between lies the truth. So if I don't investigate if I just say you're wrong, I don't know the part that I'm missing. And that's what I think we've lost, the ability to debate, to discuss, and have an actual intellectual conversation where I don't have a wall up and you don't have a wall up. It's become, we go to screaming right away.
Right.
And no thinking.
And it's the concept of they think, even though they've been told no, and understand people's property rights, they think a county commissioner has the power to deny everything.
Right. Yep.
Right. We got a project going on the corner of Lars and Bridge Road right now that is going to be, and once it gets going, is going to be very, very controversial.
Definitely contentious. I've heard a lot about it.
Guess what? They could have built that project in 1920, whenever this plat was done, right? They could have built it over 100 years ago. Whatever they're proposing to do there, they could have done it 100 years ago. And guess what? Before 100 years ago, before the plat, they could have put a 100-story building there, right? You can't just say no to something that this plat, and especially Hobe Sound, was done in the 20s, for God's sakes. They're very concerned with all the development that's going on, that's being proposed and under construction, which, by the way, I think they're doing a great job on that one that's just north of my office. But all of that stuff was zoned commercial and multi-use in the 20s, for God's sakes.
But
so,
it's kind of
my fault if somebody puts a shovel in the ground.
Well, I'm here now, so let's close the door and weld it shut. And my rights are very important. Even though you have the same rights for that property, I'm going to tell you no. I want to be in control of it because I don't want it. Well, what about your house when they built that? Was that okay?
Right.
Well, that was okay, but no, not for you.
What I like is I've had a few really rude people that live off the. Like Pat said, I'm going to piss a few people off that live off the canal streets north of Gomez, right? Yep. That were just obnoxious, right? And my thing was, when did you come here? I've been here since 1989. Really? Okay. Well, I'd like to see everybody gone. So I moved here when I was 6, so that'd be 1966. If you were here after 1966, what I want you to do is I want you to tear your house down, and I want you to restore it back to what natural was. Because your house on that canal, when they dug those canals, was a mangrove marsh.
Which is,
right?
Would never
happen. A mangrove marsh.
Yep.
Right? So you know what? I don't want to hear nothing from you. Right? I just really don't want to hear about taking somebody's God-given property rights away when you're sitting on one of the most environmental disasters that's happened in our area is where your house is, right?
Well, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But well, I'll tell you what, my dad, because he was a real estate broker, among other things, and we went over there with George Spicer, and we went down on the bulldozer, and George says he's going to dig these canals and everything else, and all you would do would just push the mosquitoes off. Yeah. Your arms were black, and you just walk, because you couldn't swat them. There was thousands, tens of thousands of them, and my dad said, who would live in this?
And and I could tell you, as somebody who worked on some of those houses in my neighborhood on the canal side, the last house, I'm working outside and it rained a little bit, and my arms and face were covered with no-see-ums. So I ran and I got bug spray, and I'm pretty sure to no-see-ums that was like a saute, because I had twice as many, and I thought, you can't even live out here
know.
still.
It's all coming from the mangroves on the other side of the river. But there used to be mangroves on that side of the river. So I remember when we were jet skiing when I was a kid, we had jet skis. And, as soon as the sun started coming down, you better have that jet ski up on the seawall and be in the house.
In the house.
Yeah, because they'll carry you away. But it's not so bad anymore, but not as bad as it was back in the day. But anyway.
I would just like to say, we have natives helping natives because of Harold Jenkins, and it was started around 97 or whenever, and thank you for doing that.
So now that you said natives helping natives, you have to say what natives helping natives is.
It's a nonprofit group that we do scholarships. We do the Christmas toys for Banner Lake and the trailer parks and that stuff, and that's what we've done. And we do other stuff. We're one-hit wonders. If somebody needs their electric paid, we do that, and that's the way it's set up, and that's the way we were. And Harold said, you know what, we have to do this, and so it wouldn't have happened without him. So I'm just trying to give credit.
So it was happening. Okay, don't even go there. Okay, so it was already happening. It just didn't have a name. It wasn't a 501c, and what it was Harry's back pocket.
Okay, that sounds about right. So, I know that guy.
And then Harry would go, and then get a couple of people to kick in some bucks and this and that and the other, and he always did the Christmas thing giveaway over in the Banner Lake area, and and so I said, we just simply, it's not that hard, Harry. We need to formalize this. This doesn't need to be this big a burden, because it was becoming a big financial burden with him, right? Because the town was growing and the need was growing. Right. So, and we were all, didn't really have we were all doing it on our own. Right.
Yep.
So we all had our own special family that, every year we'd help, or we'd do this or we'd do that. And I said, it'd be better if we had a actual organization where, for one, I'm a business guy. I'd like to be able to write some of this stuff off. Right. So that's, and if he's going to give me credit, it was more of a business decision. Yes, yeah. But Harry had been doing it for years and years and years out of pocket, so he should be given all the credit for it.
So out of all of the dollars that go into Natives Helping Natives, how much of it goes to the support staff? Any of it, or is it all volunteer?
All volunteer.
So every dollar that goes in goes back out. You will not find a not-for-profit that everybody volunteers for.
We just had to start paying to do our taxes, because we that was given for years. We didn't even pay for that.
So if you're listening out there and you want to be a part of something real, you could do the taxes. If you're an accountant, we want that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just that special that we have a group that doesn't ask anything.
Yeah.
Nobody gets paid. We do a little bit of stationery and stuff like that for the mailing out, but it's almost, I would say it's 99.5% goes back in, goes return, which is, we have 25 or 26 scholarships at $750 semester right now. So
that's terrific.
That's
it's cool. Patrice needs to be called out, and Trudy. They put a lot of time into it. It's amazing how much time Patrice puts in. So. Yeah.
All right. So anything else, or do you want to leave us with your best parting thoughts for your grandchildren? The most important things that you've learned in your life?
Best thing that I could tell my grandchildren that I'm parting is just try to be a nice person. Right?
Goes a long way, doesn't it?
Goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Try to be respectful, try to be understanding. And it took me a long time, because I wasn't that way before 2003, before my first heart attack. I wasn't that way. I'd freight train you, buddy. And that's just the way it was.
Hey, right? I used to go to the meetings and you'd be called out and you would get going and your face would get tomato red, and I would be there praying that you wouldn't have a heart attack, because that would have made him happy.
Yeah. So just chill out, do the best you can do, You know, as long as you're doing the best you can do and you feel it in your heart, you're good, right?
That's
all there is to
awesome.
it. Yeah.
So if you're out there listening, we want to hear your story. There's people out there that need to hear your story. The things that you've been through will help shape people that are out there struggling. We've had it happen time and time again. Somebody will come in and share their story, and I'll hear over the next few weeks, oh my gosh, I really needed to hear that. So reach out to us. We want to have, and don't think your story is not important, because the four of us were talking before we started, and everyone is carrying a burden that no one can see.
Yeah, no doubt.
And if you come up and share how you've handled yours, or it could be everyone is carrying something wonderful that's happened, and how did you handle the success? Because some of us have handled it very well, and some of us maybe not so well. So reach out to us.
Well, thank you so much. I'll tell you what, we got more stories, and we'll just keep telling them. But thank you, Harold, for coming in and just made it for a special, special day, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I don't know that my life is that exciting, but
See, everybody's got a story.
Hey, you were going 690 at 200 mile an hour, so that's pretty exciting. You know, lots of
I've lived a
excitement.
full life, right?
Yeah.
That's and if when my time's up, I'm ready.
No regrets, God bless.
No regrets, God bless.
And
no
Scott
doubt.
Fay, you're being called out.
Yeah,
We
no
want
doubt.
you to
Scott,
come in.
we need to get Scott here. Scott's got a great story.
He does.
And he's an amazing guy, focused. He's one of the most focused individuals I know.
He is.
He really is, and Tom both are great people. And it's everybody, when they see us eating lunch together, they're going, "Aren't you guys competitors?" It's like,
Well, now we know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would
well,
say.
we don't. There's no collusion involved.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate y'all. Seth, thank you as always for everything that you do. You're a rock star.
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hello, Harry MacArthur here. Thank you for listening. Please stop by to Harry and the Natives and say hello to us, and have breakfast, lunch, or dinner Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday morning, you can have breakfast till 1 o'clock, and then Sunday afternoon and Monday, you're not going to find us. I'll come find you. Thank you. Come to Harry and the Natives.
Hi, it's Bob with O'Donnell Impact Windows and Storm Protection, and I know the name is tricky. We do impact windows and storm protection. We live in Hurricane Central, and we will keep you safe from the weather. We'll keep you safe from any people that want to come and break into your house, and we'll keep you safe from Florida Electric by keeping your bills lower. So we do this for fun because we love it, and we want our community to know that there's a lot of good people out there, but we also need to support ourselves. So if you need anything, please give us a call. And please remember, at O'Donnell, it's our family protecting your family, and thanks for watching. We appreciate you.